You know, we so often find ourselves talking about the Queen's dazzling tiaras or the fascinating tales behind her iconic brooches, yet her bracelets, those graceful treasures that so often slip past the cameras almost unnoticed, hold some of the most intimate and heartfelt stories of all. They seem to whisper quietly of her grandmother's formidable legacy, of the tender, personal gifts from a devoted father who adored her beyond measure, and of one of the most audacious acts of love in royal history, a prince so deeply enamoured that he transformed a priceless relic of his own heritage into the perfect wedding gift for his bride. These jewels were never mere ornaments of duty or symbols of monarchy. They were worn for love, for remembrance, for the emotions too personal to be spoken aloud. In many ways, they form another of the Queen's unwritten diaries, a private chronicle of her life told not in ink, but in gemstones and gold. And today, I thought we could open that diary together and read its shimmering pages. So, where could we possibly begin with a collection so vast, so rich with meaning and history? For me, there's really only one place that feels right to start with her father. King George VI was not merely her monarch, he was her constant source of strength and warmth. A man whose devotion to his family was as well known as his quiet dignity. You can almost feel that deep, enduring affection reflected in the bracelets he gifted his daughter jewels that were far more than ornaments. Each one marked a defining moment in the early chapters of her life, capturing the love, pride, and hopes of a father watching his young princess grow into the woman and sovereign she was destined to become. Let's begin with her 18th birthday in the year 1944, a moment that marked the threshold between childhood and destiny. For this milestone, her father presented her with a breathtaking sapphire and diamond bracelet from the famed house of Cartier. What makes this particular piece so captivating is its quiet, refined beauty. It isn't a grand, ostentatious jewel meant to command attention. Rather, it speaks in a softer voice, modest, graceful, and exquisitely balanced. The design features a harmonious line of square-cut sapphires, each one separated by delicate links of shimmering diamonds, creating a rhythm that feels both youthful and timeless. It was the perfect gift for a young princess poised delicately on the edge of womanhood. And when you recall that King George VI had a special fondness for sapphires himself, the choice of gem becomes all the more intimate and personal, a father's thoughtful reflection of his own heart. Given to his beloved daughter, she treasured it deeply, and years later, in the year 1950, she chose to wear this very bracelet at the christening of her daughter, Princess Anne. That quiet gesture, selecting it for such a meaningful family celebration, speaks volumes about its sentimental weight. It wasn't just jewellery to her, it was a memory, a symbol of love, and a tender echo of her father's presence. Then came her wedding in the year 1947, an event that would not only unite two lives, but also weave another precious thread into the story of her jewels. For this most momentous occasion, King George VI bestowed upon his daughter a gift of extraordinary splendour, a suite of antique sapphire and diamond jewels, dating back to around 1850. The set included a breathtaking necklace and a pair of exquisitely matching earrings, each piece radiating a regal depth of colour and a sense of timeless artistry. This sapphire suite would go on to become one of the cornerstones of her jewellery collection, a defining ensemble that she would continue to shape with her own vision and taste. By the early 1960s, ever practical and discerning, the Queen decided to have the necklace shortened slightly to suit the more modern neckline styles of the day. Yet she did not let the removed sapphire links go to waste. True to her thoughtful ingenuity, she transformed them into a perfectly coordinated bracelet, a creation not directly gifted, but born from her own elegant sense of balance and purpose. And As many of you know, the story didn't end there. In time, she completed the transformation by acquiring a magnificent sapphire tiara, thus forming the complete and dazzling sapphire parure that would become an enduring symbol of her royal image. Whenever she appeared at grand state occasions, adorned in that glorious suite, the bracelet, the one shaped by her own decision, gleamed faithfully at her wrist. Quietly uniting the ensemble, it stood as a graceful reminder that even the most majestic of jewels can carry within them the love of a father and the creative spirit of a daughter. And finally, in the year 1949, came the third and final gift from her father, the exquisite baguette and brilliant bracelet. Crafted by the renowned jewellers Garrard, it is a masterpiece of balance and refinement. The design features 2 radiant rows of brilliant cut diamonds bordered on each side by sleek bands of baguette diamonds, all converging gracefully into an elegant central twist. The result is a creation that manages to be both bold and understated, a perfect reflection of timeless sophistication. What makes this piece particularly fascinating is that it was not a special commission made for her. Instead, it was an existing jewel that King George VI personally selected and purchased for his daughter, a gesture that feels deeply personal, thoughtful, and filled with quiet affection. Throughout her long reign, the Queen wore this bracelet often and with evident fondness. It appeared at countless occasions, from a grand banquet in Singapore in the year 1989 to a state visit to Abu Dhabi in the year 2010. Its versatility made it one of her most trusted companions, a jewel that seemed to belong effortlessly to every era of her life. When you look at these 3 gifts together, the delicate sapphire bracelet for her 18th birthday, the magnificent antique sapphire suite to celebrate her marriage, and this luminous diamond bracelet for the woman who had become not just a wife and mother, but the heir to the throne, a tender narrative emerges. Each piece represents a chapter of love, pride, and faith from a devoted father to his daughter. They are tangible memories of her beloved papa's devotion, jewels she would treasure and wear with affection for the entirety of her life. But if her father's gifts laid the foundation of love, faith, and gentle guidance, then the gifts from the next great love of her life, Prince Philip told an entirely different story, one of partnership, devotion, and shared purpose. And it all begins with one of the most romantic gestures in the long history of royalty. For their wedding in the year 1947, the young Prince Philip, who was not a man of immense personal fortune, was nonetheless determined to present his bride with a gift that would be nothing short of extraordinary, something worthy of her, yet deeply his own, and this is where the story becomes truly remarkable. In a touching act of familial devotion, he turned to his mother, Princess Alice of Battenberg, who graciously offered him her own wedding tiara, a magnificent jewel originally gifted to her by the last Tsar and Tsarina of Russia. But what Philip chose to do next was bold, daring, and profoundly symbolic. Rather than simply passing along a treasured heirloom, he decided to transform it completely. He had the historic Romanov tiara carefully dismantled, its precious diamonds removed and reimagined into an entirely new creation, a piece conceived not from duty or inheritance, but from love itself. It was something uniquely from him, made for her, a gesture that spoke not only of romance, but of the new life they were about to build together. The result of that daring and deeply personal act was the now famous Edinburgh wedding bracelet, a creation as striking and modern as the man who conceived it. Set in platinum, its bold, geometric lines and clean architectural symmetry seemed to echo Prince Philip's own character. Strong, forward-thinking, and quietly confident, it wasn't merely a jewel, it was a reflection of his spirit and his love. captured in metal and light. From the moment it graced her wrist, it became one of the Queen's most treasured pieces. She wore it faithfully throughout her entire reign for official portraits, state occasions, and some of the most defining moments of her public life. The bracelet became an enduring emblem of their union, a silent companion that carried his presence wherever she went. And then, 5 years later, came another gift, one perhaps even more intimate and revealing. For their 5th wedding anniversary, Prince Philip himself designed an exquisite gold bracelet. Every detail of it bore the mark of his thoughtfulness, his creativity, and the deep affection he held for his wife. It was not merely crafted by jewellers, it was imagined by a husband who understood her completely. And this bracelet was so much more than a piece of jewellery. It was like a secret code written in gold, a quiet, gleaming chronicle of their love story. Each link intertwined their initials, E and P, delicately bound together as though to mirror their unbreakable connection. Adorning the design were the white roses of York, a graceful tribute to her first title and heritage, while at the very centre rested his naval badge, a proud emblem of the man he was, of the life and service that had shaped him long before the crown. Every detail told a part of their story, their marriage captured, not in words, but in golden symbols of devotion. What makes it all the more poignant is how differently she wore it compared to the Edinburgh bracelet, that first creation, born from diamonds and daring, was a constant public companion, often seen, admired, and celebrated. But this anniversary bracelet, infused with so much quiet emotion, remained a far more private treasure. Its rare appearances, such as at their 60th wedding anniversary dinner, carried immense meaning. It felt as though this was a piece meant not for the world's gaze, but for her heart alone a jewel. She kept close, a tender reminder of the man she loved and the lifelong bond they shared, worn only during the moments that truly mattered most. The gifts from her father and her husband marked the beautiful beginning of her personal story chapters of love, devotion, and partnership. But the next remarkable layer in her collection came from the woman who had, in many ways, shaped the very idea of what it meant to be a modern monarch. Her formidable grandmother, Queen Mary. The jewels passed down from Mary were far more than glittering adornments. They carried the weight of legacy, continuity, and identity, a living bridge between generations. Each piece told a story of history, lovingly handed from one queen to the next, ensuring that the past would always shimmer quietly beside the present. Let us begin with the treasures that Elizabeth received for her own wedding in the year 1947, while her grandmother was still proudly by her side. The first was the breathtaking Cornwall Rose of York bracelet, a piece that radiates both sentiment and splendour. Its history is utterly enchanting. This bracelet had once been one of Queen Mary's own wedding gifts, presented to her in the year 1893 by the people of Cornwall and crafted by the distinguished jewellers. Carrington, at its heart, lies a resplendent burst of colour, a diamond and ruby rose of York gleaming with regal warmth and meaning. Inside, engraved with loving care, is a touching inscription that reads, "From Cornwall, one and all, July the 6th. I then 93. It feels like a secret message, carried across the decades, a whisper of loyalty and affection from the people to their queen. Elizabeth adored this bracelet deeply. It became one of her most frequently worn ruby pieces, a steadfast favourite that accompanied her through more than 70 years of public life and private memory, a true constant in a world that was forever changing. Also among the magnificent wedding gifts from Queen Mary were a pair of exquisite Indian bangles, jewels that carried both beauty and history in equal measure. These elegant creations had once been presented to Queen Mary herself as a wedding gift from the Bombay Presidency in the year 1893, and they perfectly embodied the opulent craftsmanship of India's renowned artisans. The design was simply captivating: two identical bangles, each fashioned in richly engraved gold and adorned with 39 brilliant cut diamonds, their surfaces shimmering with a delicate balance of precision and grace. Yet beyond their beauty, there was an element of clever artistry to them, an ingenious little secret of design. Each bangle contained a hidden hinge, allowing the two to be joined together to form a single, wide, statement-making cuff. It was both versatile and striking, a perfect marriage of tradition and innovation. We see the young Princess Elizabeth wearing these very bangles at a formal dinner in Norway in the year 1951, where they added an air of glamour and quiet majesty to her ensemble. There was a subtle hint of the exotic in their sparkle, a reflection of Queen Mary's enduring admiration for India and its artistry. These were treasures passed not merely as heirlooms, but as blessings from one bride to another, from grandmother to granddaughter, a symbolic gesture of continuity, love, and grace. Yet this exchange marked only the beginning of Queen Mary's true legacy. For just 2 years later, in the year 1953, with Mary's passing, the very heart of her legendary jewellery collection, a trove built over decades of royal history, would be entrusted to the new Queen, and from that moment onward, those jewels would define not only Elizabeth's royal image, but her personal story for the rest of her life. And within that magnificent inheritance were some of the most effortlessly chic and stylish jewels in her entire possession. Among them, as noted by Angela Kelly in her book, it was a remarkable set of 4 Art Deco bracelets that Queen Mary had lovingly left to her granddaughter, each one an emblem of early 20th century sophistication. There was a ruby bracelet, an emerald bracelet, a sapphire bracelet, and an aquamarine bracelet together, forming a radiant spectrum of colour and craftsmanship. We are fortunate that photographs of these extraordinary pieces exist, capturing them side by side, a dazzling quartet that perfectly encapsulates the glamour and precision of the 1920s. Each bracelet is a study in symmetry and restraint, yet the overall effect is pure luxury. But among these treasures, one stood out as the undisputed star, the Art Deco ruby and diamond bracelet. This particular piece became not just a favourite, but a true workhorse of the Queen's collection, one she turned to again and again for her most important appearances. Its design is a masterclass in geometric beauty, a rhythmic arrangement of links glittering with brilliant and baguette-cut diamonds, punctuated by 4 sumptuous square-cut rubies that blaze like crimson fire. It is both powerful and elegant, bold yet refined, the kind of piece that commands attention without ever needing to shout. Over the decades, the Queen wore it for some of her grandest and most memorable moments. It gleamed at the state banquet for President Donald Trump in the year 2019, shone brightly during her historic visit to China in 1986, and appeared at countless galas and Commonwealth dinners across the years. It was, quite simply, her quintessentiel ruby bracelet, timeless, dependable, and endlessly sophisticated. A jewel that, much like the Queen herself, combined tradition with modern grace, and endured as a symbol of enduring style. From that enduring favourite, we turn to one of its rarer, more mysterious sisters, the exquisite emerald bracelet. This piece, with its luminous square-cut emeralds framed by intricate scrolling diamond work, possessed an elegance that felt both regal and restrained. Unlike her ruby counterpart, the emerald bracelet was not a constant in the Queen's jewellery rotation, and perhaps that infrequency only made its occasional appearances feel even more special, little flashes of brilliance that reminded the world of her extraordinary collection. One of its earliest and most memorable outings came in the year 1973, when the Queen attended a film premiere. On that evening, she styled the bracelet to perfection, pairing it with the magnificent Cambridge emerald necklace and earrings, and completing the ensemble with the iconic Girls of Great Britain and Ireland tiara, a combination that radiated both harmony and grandeur. Decades later, the bracelet resurfaced at the Commonwealth Dinner in Malta in the year 2015, a rare and delightful reappearance. It was during that event that the Queen, ever quick, with wit and charm, made her famous quip to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, teasing that he had made her feel terribly old by noting she had known 12 Canadian Prime Ministers. That moment, light-hearted and human, seemed to mirror the spirit of the bracelet itself, elegant, ageless, and touched with a sparkle of humour that only made it more endearing. Then we come to another of these refined companions, the serene and luminous aquamarine bracelet. This piece, cool and tranquil in tone, seemed to belong to a quieter side of the Queen's collection. She appeared to reserve it for those rare, more intimate occasions rather than grand state events. One of its most memorable outings was in the year 2010, when she chose to wear it for the 70th birthday celebration of her cousin and dear lifelong friend, King Constantine of Greece. The choice felt tender and deliberate, a jewel of calm beauty, worn for a family moment filled with warmth and connection. And completing this remarkable quartet is the final piece, a stunning sapphire bracelet, centered around a single magnificent sapphire that anchors the design with depth and grace. This one remains the most mysterious of all. No photographs are known to exist of her wearing it, leaving it shrouded in a kind of elegant secrecy. Yet, when viewed alongside its three siblings, the ruby, emerald, and aquamarine bracelets, it helps to paint a vivid picture of the extraordinary versatility that Queen Mary's legacy afforded her granddaughter. Together, they form a perfect study in Art Deco design, stylish, balanced, and endlessly adaptable. A jewel for every mood, every moment, and every colour. These four bracelets exemplify not only the glamour of their era, but also the quiet strength and refined taste of the women who wore them. But Queen Mary's brilliance extended far beyond her remarkable taste in style. It also lay in her extraordinary imagination for innovation. She possessed a true genius for transforming jewellery into something clever, functional, and endlessly adaptable. And perhaps the finest example of this ingenuity is found in the remarkable creation we now know as Queen Mary's diamond link bracelets. This was not merely a single jewel, but an entire system, an inspired piece of design that blended elegance with engineering. Crafted by the esteemed House of Garrard in the early 1930s, it consisted of two exquisite diamond chain link bracelets, executed in a refined modernist style that perfectly captured the quiet glamour of the era. Yet the true marvel of the design lay in its clasp, a separate diamond brooch centred around a magnificent, sizable diamond, a gem that had been presented to Queen Mary in the year 1933 by the South African diamond industry. Here was the ingenious part. The two bracelets and the brooch could be joined together to form a single, spectacular choker. It was versatility elevated to art. Queen Mary, ever the master of presentation, wore the piece in both its forms. She was often photographed wearing the grand choker at major state occasions throughout the 1930s, including her husband's Silver Jubilee, where it sparkled with regal brilliance. At other times, She preferred to separate the pieces and wear them as bracelets, a testament to her keen understanding of elegance in every context. When Elizabeth inherited this remarkable convertible jewel in the year 1953, she made her own distinct choice. Though she was never particularly fond of chokers herself, she adored the simplicity and balance of the bracelet design throughout her long reign. One of the diamond link bracelets became a quiet, constant, a timeless piece that appeared at countless galas, arbanki, and formal events, often paired with her elegant evening watch on the opposite wrist. And yet, knowing that these two modest bracelets can be reunited into that dazzling choker, one can't help but wonder, how extraordinary might it look today on the graceful, elongated neck of the Princess of Wales? For example, that sleek Art Deco brilliance could find new life. It would be nothing short of breathtaking, wouldn't it? To see it once again worn as the magnificent choker it was originally meant to be. And now we arrive at a jewel that carries with it one of the most captivating stories in the entire royal collection, the legendary Cambridge Emeralds bracelet. The bracelet itself is a masterpiece of traditional design, composed of 3 of the magnificent Cambridge Emeralds, each framed in a constellation of glittering diamonds. It was originally created by Queen Mary as part of her Grand Delhi Durbar, Peru in the year 1911, an ensemble so resplendent that it came to define royal opulence for generations to come. Queen Elizabeth would later wear this bracelet as part of that very suite, often pairing it with the emerald setting of the iconic Vladimir tiara and the imposing Delhi Durbar necklace for her most formal and stately occasions. When she appeared adorned in those pieces, the effect was nothing short of regal poetry, a harmony of deep green and brilliant white, timeless and commanding in its presence. But what makes this bracelet truly extraordinary is not only its beauty, but the remarkable history of the stones it contains. The Cambridge Emeralds themselves have one of the most dramatic backstories imaginable. They were originally won in a charity lottery by Queen Mary's grandmother, an astonishing stroke of fortune that would ultimately shape the royal jewel collection. Later, the emeralds were inherited by Queen Mary's brother, who caused great scandal by leaving them to his mistress upon his death. It was only through Mary's swift and decisive action, purchasing them back at an immense cost, that these priceless gems were saved and returned to the royal family. From those fateful beginnings, she incorporated the stones into her Delhi Durbar parure, ensuring their place among the crown's most magnificent heirlooms. For Queen Elizabeth, the bracelet was not a piece to be worn casually. It was reserved for only the most significant state events, occasions that demanded the full weight of royal grandeur. When she appeared wearing the emerald setting of the Vladimir tiara and the Delhi Durbar necklace, with this bracelet completing the ensemble, the result was breathtaking. A vision of continuity, majesté, and living history glittering on her wrist. And from that tale of grandeur and high historical drama, we turn now to another of Queen Mary's cherished creations, one that embodies pure, classic royal elegance. It is the exquisite 5-row pearl bracelet, a piece that radiates serenity and sophistication. Pearls, of course, were a defining element in the jewellery traditions of both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, symbols of refinement, continuity, and quiet strength. Yet what makes this particular bracelet truly special lies in its remarkable clasp, a glittering diamond flower, perfectly balanced and full of grace. At its heart rests a single yellow diamond, glowing softly amid the cool shimmer of the pearls and white stones. It is a small, almost hidden detail, one that might easily escape the eye at first glance. But once noticed, it transforms the entire piece That touch of golden warmth lends it a rare individuality, turning a timeless classic into something deeply personal. It is yet another example of Queen Mary's impeccable taste, her ability to take a traditional form and infuse it with just the right hint of originality and spirit. With this bracelet, we reach the ninth of the magnificent jewels, bequeathed to Queen Elizabeth through her grandmother's will. But, intriguingly, there was a tenth, another piece combining pearls and diamonds, though this one carried with it a touch of mystery, a puzzle we will return to a little later. For now, as we leave behind the grandeur and history-laden treasures of Queen Mary's legacy, we move into a new chapter of the Queen's story, one shaped by her mother. The bracelets that came from the Queen Mother told a different tale altogether, a narrative of modern elegance, effortless style, and just enough mystery to remind us that even within a life so public, some secrets of beauty and sentiment remain entirely her own. The first of these remarkable pieces is one that many will recognise today, as it has graced the wrist of the Princess of Wales in recent years. Yet its story stretches much further back in time. It is the magnificent diamond quatrefoil bracelet, a jewel of striking substance and craftsmanship, broad, flexible, and exquisitely articulated. The bracelet features an intricate repeating pattern built around the distinctive quatrefoil motif, that timeless four-leaf design so often associated with good fortune and royal tradition. What makes this bracelet so intriguing, however, is the mystery that surrounds it. Its precise origins remain completely unknown. We know it once belonged to the Queen Mother, and that the earliest photographs of her wearing it date from the 1950s, but there is no surviving record of when, where, or how she acquired it. It seems to have simply appeared, already steeped in quiet elegance, as if it had always belonged within the royal collection. After the Queen Mother's passing in the year 2002, the bracelet was inherited by Queen Elizabeth, who wore it for particularly formal and stately occasions, moments that demanded an air of restrained grandeur. Notably, she chose it for the state opening of Parliament in the years 2008 and 2010, where it gleamed with dignified brilliance. What is especially delightful is the way she styled it. On one of those occasions, she paired the bracelet with Queen Victoria's Golden Jubilee necklace, a spectacular piece whose central element also features a crowned quatrefoil. In doing so, she created her own elegant harmony between past and present, forming a subtle, matching set, orde mi parure, that perfectly demonstrated her innate eye for thoughtful detail. It was a small but exquisite example of how the Queen wove history, symbolism, and personal style seamlessly together. Then we come to one of the most enchanting and ingenious ensembles in the entire royal collection, the Queen Mother's Cartier bracelets. The story behind them is nothing short of delightful, a tale that blends romance, artistry, and the effortless glamour of a bygone age. Between the years 1923 and 1925, the newlywed Duke of York, the man who would one day become King George VI, presented his young wife with a series of 5 exquisite Art Deco bracelets from Cartier. Each one was given as a gift for either her birthdays or at Christmas, forming a radiant collection of colour and light. There was one set with sapphires, one with rubies, one with emeralds, and 2 dazzlingly composed entirely of diamonds. The craftsmanship was impeccable. The style, distinctly modern for its time, elegant yet daring, capturing perfectly the spirit of the roaring 1920s. Early portraits of the Duchess of York show her wearing all 5 bracelets stacked luxuriously on one arm, an image of glamour that could have stepped straight from the pages of a fashion magazine. It was a bold statement, and one that reflected both her youthful confidence and Cartier's mastery of design. But the brilliance of this story doesn't end there. After receiving all 5 bracelets, the Duchess commissioned a special bandeau mount from Cartier, an ingenious frame that allowed 3 of the bracelets to be joined together and worn as a single, breathtaking bandeau-style tiara. She wore it in this form throughout the 1920s and 30s, embodying the very essence of chic, modern royalty. When the bracelets later passed to Queen Elizabeth, she chose to wear them differently. True to her own understated sensibility, she never used the bandeau mount, preferring instead to wear the bracelets exactly as they had been designed as bracelets. Unlike her mother, she seldom wore all 5 at once. Instead, she selected 1 or 2 at a time, mixing and matching them in endless combinations over the decades. They became a beloved and versatile part of her collection jewels. She returned to time and again, not just for their beauty, but for the tenderness of the story they carried. Each bracelet was a sparkling reminder of her parents' devotion, their shared elegance, and the timeless grace that defined their love, beyond the extraordinary legacy she inherited from generations before her. Queen Elizabeth's own reign added yet another brilliant chapter to the story of royal jewels. Over the decades, her collection expanded with magnificent gifts presented by nations and leaders from every corner of the globe. These were not mere tokens of goodwill, they were powerful symbols of diplomacy, of respect, and of her unique position as a figure who stood at the crossroads of history and statecraft. Ich Gift carried, meaning representing friendship between peoples and the esteem in which she was held as a global monarch. But what makes this part of her story so fascinating is the way she engaged with these treasures. The Queen was never a passive recipient of grandeur. She was an active, discerning curator. She approached these jewels not only as symbols of power, but as living works of art pieces to be understood, adapted, and, when necessary, transformed to suit her personal vision and modern sensibilities. In her hands, a diplomatic gift was never just an ornament to be locked away. It became something vital, infused with her taste and character. Through subtle alterations, thoughtful pairings, and a rare sense of practicality, she made even the grandest of jewels truly her own wearable testaments to both her reign and her individuality. A perfect example of her thoughtful approach to jewellery and to symbolism itself can be found in the story of her magnificent South African suite. The tale begins in the year 1947, when the young Princess Elizabeth received an extraordinary gift for her 21st birthday, a breathtaking diamond necklace presented to her by the government and people of South Africa. The piece was composed of 21 large, engraduated diamonds, one for each year of her life, a glittering celebration of youth, promise, and destiny. But just 5 years later, in the year 1952, as the newly crowned Queen stepped into her role, fashion and formality had evolved. Ever practical and possessing a sharp eye for proportion, she decided that the necklace, though beautiful, was a touch too long for the elegant neckline styles of the day. And so, with her characteristic combination of pragmatism and artistry, she chose to have it shortened from 21 stones to 15, yet true to her nature, nothing was ever wasted. The 6 diamonds that were carefully removed from the necklace were not set aside or forgotten. Instead, they were transformed into a perfectly matching bracelet, a piece that complemented the original design flawlessly and completed the suite with quiet brilliance. This new bracelet, though not a gift in the traditional sense, was something even more meaningful, a creation born entirely of her own choice. It stood as a shining example of how Queen Elizabeth approached even her most sentimental treasures with reverence, yes, but also with practicality, creativity, and an unerring sense of how to make beauty truly her own. Then There is the story of one of the most celebrated and visually striking suites in her entire collection, the legendary Brazilian aquamarine parure. This remarkable ensemble did not arrive all at once, but rather evolved beautifully over time, each edition deepening its grandeur and symbolism. It began in the year 1953, when the newly crowned Queen received an extraordinary coronation gift from the President and people of Brazil, a dazzling necklace and a pair of earrings, each featuring enormous, perfectly matched aquamarines. The stones were so exceptional in both size and clarity that it was said to have taken jewellers an entire year to source and prepare them. The Queen was utterly enchanted by the gift. The serene, ocean blue tones of the aquamarines perfectly complemented her poise and complexion, and she soon decided that such beauty deserved completion. In the year 1957, she personally commissioned Garrard, the royal jeweller, to design and craft a matching tiara, ensuring the suite would reflect her own refined sense of balance and harmony. The story did not end there. Just a year later, in 1958, the Brazilian government once again expressed its admiration and friendship by presenting her with additional matching pieces, a magnificent brooch and a truly breathtaking bracelet set with 7 large, oblong aquamarines, each framed in brilliant diamonds. And, true to form, the Queen's practical sensibility soon came into play. Recognising that the bracelet's generous size might make it slightly cumbersome to wear, she had it thoughtfully shortened to 5 stones, a subtle adjustment that preserved its beauty while making it perfectly comfortable and wearable. The Brazilian aquamarine suite stands as a perfect illustration of how her collection grew not only through gestures of international generosity, but also through her own creative vision and intelligent curation. It was diplomacy transformed into art, and elegance shaped by both gratitude and personal style. And if the creation of the Brazilian aquamarine suite unfolded gradually, like a story told in graceful chapters, then the arrival of the Dubai Sapphire Suite was nothing short of a burst of pure, unrestrained glamour. In the year 1979, during her tour of the Gulf states, the Queen received an extraordinary gift from Sheikh Rashid of Dubai, a suite so dazzling that it reportedly left her momentarily speechless. According to accounts from that time, she actually gasped in amazement when it was first unveiled before her. The gift came from the famed jeweller Asprey and consisted of a spectacular necklace formed of interlocking diamond loops, each set with grand sapphires of remarkable depth and brilliance. Completing the ensemble were a pair of enormous coordinating earrings and a ring to match together, forming a set that was opulent even by royal standards. But, as always, the Queen's instinct for refinement and balance soon took over. Magnificent though the pieces were, she saw ways to make them truly her own. She began by having the necklace shortened slightly, creating a more elegant and wearable silhouette. From the sections that were removed, she ingeniously commissioned a new, smaller pair of earrings, refined, delicate, and perfectly suited to her understated style. Then came her most inspired transformation. She took the original oversized earrings, along with the sapphire cluster from the ring, and had them reimagined and combined into a single, breathtaking bracelet. The result was a triumph of design, a piece that preserved the splendour of the original gift while reshaping it into something unmistakably hers. It was, in every sense, a masterstroke. The perfect example of how the Queen could take even the grandest of diplomatic gifts and, through her vision and practicality, tailor them into creations that reflected her own grace, sensibility, and modern royal identity. And that brings us to the final chapter in this dazzling diplomatic collection, a suite wrapped in a touch of mystery and intrigue, the Sapphire Tassel Demi Parure. This elegant ensemble consists of a necklace distinguished by a central knot design from which descends a graceful tassel of sapphires and diamonds. Completing the set are a pair of matching earrings and a beautifully balanced bracelet, each echoing the same refined rhythm of shimmering blue and brilliant white. Unlike many of her other suites, the origins of this one remain uncertain. It is widely believed to have been a gift from the Middle East, possibly presented during a Saudi state visit, though no definitive record has ever confirmed its provenance. The lack of documentation only adds to its quiet allure, a jewel that seems to exist between known history and whispered legend. Though not among the Queen's most frequently worn suites, it held an unmistakable air of importance whenever it did appear. One of its most notable outings was at the Saudi state banquet, where its deep blue sparkle complemented the atmosphere of diplomacy and ceremony. In many ways, the sapphire tassel demi-parure stands as a fitting symbol of her reign, elegant, reserved, and dignified, its beauty speaking softly but with undeniable presence. It reminds us that not every treasure need be ostentatious to carry meaning. Some jewels, like some moments of history, shine brightest in their quiet grace. And now, as we approach the final chapter of this glittering chronicle, there is one bracelet we simply cannot pass by, a piece that stands apart, not for its mystery, but for the extraordinary history it carries. This is none other than Queen Victoria's diamond bracelet, one of the cornerstone jewels of the modern royal collection, a piece that embodies the very continuity of monarchy itself, created in the year 1838 for the young Queen Victoria. This bracelet holds a place of unique reverence. It is designated as an heirloom of the crown, a title reserved for jewels of deep historic and symbolic significance, intended to pass from sovereign to sovereign. The bracelet appears prominently in Queen Victoria's celebrated portraits from both her golden and diamond jubilees, sparkling as a tangible link between personal adornment and national identity. Through the decades, it journeyed from queen to queen, gracing the wrists of Queen Alexandra, Queen Mary, and later Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Following the death of King George VI in 1952, the Queen Mother was permitted to retain several of these heirlooms for her lifetime. Yet, intriguingly, in this particular bracelet seems to have been returned to the new Queen relatively early, likely during the 1960s. We can see it adorning Queen Elizabeth's wrist in the now iconic Cecil Beaton portraits taken in 1968, where its understated radiance perfectly complements her serene, regal poise. Though it may not have been among her most frequently worn favourites, the Queen continued to wear it with quiet consistency over the decades, choosing it for formal engagements where tradition and symbolism mattered most. In its gleaming diamonds lies the unbroken thread of royal heritage, a bracelet that has witnessed the evolution of the crown itself, from the age of empire to the modern world, linking generations of queens in a single, enduring shimmer of history. And while certain pieces, like Queen Victoria's diamond bracelet, bear the full grandeur and weight of royal history, the Queen's collection also concealed within it a few captivating enigmas, jewels whose origins remain tantalizingly obscure. One such treasure is among the most intriguing of all, the modern ruby and diamond bracelet, a piece that has long puzzled historians and jewellery enthusiasts alike. It seems to have quietly entered her rotation in the early 1960s, appearing without fanfare in photographs from that period. Instantly, it stood out for its distinctly different character. Unlike the antique elegance of so many of her inherited jewels, this bracelet exuded a crisp, modern sensibility. Its design featured a series of oval plaques of vibrant rubies, each framed by a halo of brilliant cut diamonds, a composition that balanced bold colour with contemporary refinement. What makes it particularly fascinating is that, unlike most major pieces in her collection, its story is entirely unknown. No official record notes when or from whom it was acquired. We do not know whether it was a private purchase made on a whim, a discreet personal gift, or perhaps a quiet gesture of affection from someone close. And yet, despite its mysterious beginnings, the Queen clearly cherished it. Over the years, she wore the bracelet with striking regularity, often pairing it with her grander ruby suites for both formal and semi-private occasions. It became one of those pieces that felt deeply personal, elegant, but not ostentatious, distinctive yet understated. In its anonymity lies its charm, a quiet reminder that even under the gaze of the world, Queen Elizabeth managed to keep certain things entirely her own. For all the scrutiny and fascination that surrounded her, her private jewellery box, like her inner life, still held its secrets, sparkling silently, with stories we will never fully know. All right, remember that little mystery I hinted at earlier from Queen Mary's inheritance, the elusive 10th bracelet? Well, it's time to put on our detective gloves, because this is truly one of the most intriguing puzzles in the entire royal collection, the case of the pearl lattice bracelet. Here's what we know. Over the years, several photographs have surfaced of Queen Elizabeth wearing a beautiful bracelet crafted in an elegant lattice pattern of pearls and diamonds. At first glance, it's a piece of extraordinary refinement, delicate yet intricate, with that unmistakable air of vintage royal glamour. But for decades, its true identity has been the subject of spirited debate among jewellery historians and royal watchers alike. According to the respected jewellery author Leslie Field, at least one of these photographs shows the Queen wearing a bracelet that originally belonged to Princess Marie Louise, Queen Victoria's granddaughter. This bracelet, Field explains, was inherited by Elizabeth upon the princess's death, a piece of genuine Victorian lineage passed quietly into the Queen's possession. However, others propose an entirely different and rather thrilling theory. In a clearer colour photograph taken years later, the Queen appears to wear a bracelet so elaborate and rich in design that many believe it to be something else entirely. Queen Mary's magnificent City of London choker, cleverly adapted and worn on the wrist. When we examine the evidence, both arguments carry weight. Photographs of Princess Marie Louise wearing her choker show a design in which the diamonds appear smaller, allowing the pearls to dominate the pattern, but Queen Mary's City of London choker was altogether more opulent. Its brilliant cut diamonds were almost equal in size to the pearls, producing a strikingly balanced, glittering lattice of light. And in that later colour photograph of the Queen, the proportions and sparkle seem to align far more closely with Mary's version. Still, the truth may be more nuanced than either camp admits. Given that Queen Elizabeth inherited both pieces, Princess Marie Louise's bracelet and Queen Mary's choker, it's entirely possible that she wore each at different times, depending on the occasion or ensemble, and that, perhaps, is part of the enduring charm of this mystery. Even with all the documentation, expert research, and endless fascination surrounding the royal jewels, if the Queen's collection still keeps a few secrets to itself, the pearl lattice bracelet, whichever version she wore, reminds us that the royal jewellery box, much like history itself, never quite reveals all of its glittering truths. And so, we come to the end of this glittering journey, her unwritten diary, told not in ink, but in light, from the tender, heartfelt gifts of a loving father and devoted husband to the grand, history-steeped heirlooms of her formidable grandmother, and finally, to the dazzling diplomatic treasures presented from every corner of the globe. Each bracelet tells a chapter of the Queen's extraordinary life. Together, They weave a story of love, duty, heritage, and quiet emotion, a life captured in gemstones, each one whispering a memory, a moment, a sentiment, too personal for words. Every bracelet reflects a different facet of her story. The sapphire of her youth, the diamond of her reign, the ruby of her passion, and the pearl of her wisdom. They remind us that beyond the crown and ceremony was a woman who treasured symbols of connection to her family, her history, and her world. I would truly love to know what you think. Which of these remarkable jewels captures your imagination the most? Is there one you'd hope to see make a radiant return, perhaps adorning the wrist of the Princess of Wales or Queen Camilla, in continuing the story into a new generation? Thank you so much for spending this time with me today, exploring the hidden stories nestled within these royal treasures. If you've enjoyed uncovering these tales of beauty, history, and sentiment, I would be deeply honoured if you would subscribe for more, because, after all, every jewel has a story waiting to be told.